Hi, my name is Rabbi Sarah Tasman. I want to give a short teaching and kavannah, or intention, for this week's Torah portion, which is called Toldot. We are in the book of Genesis in the Torah, and we are in the story of Isaac. In last week's Torah portion, Isaac had met his wife-to-be, Rebecca, at the well. And in this week's Torah portion, the well comes up again, or wells, plural. So there's a section of this week's Torah portion that in the past, I'll admit that I kind of just read over and it didn't really jump out at me until I was reading over it this year. And at first glance, it seems a little bit obscure, but when I was starting to think about it a little bit more deeply, it became very, very interesting and meaningful to me. So there's a part in the Torah portion where Isaac is digging up or uncovering these wells that his father Abraham had dug before, and they had been covered over by the Philistines. And at first I was thinking about just the significance of Abraham having dug these wells previously, and how much of an impact that must have had on his community, and thinking about why he dug them. And when we think about the well, the image and the symbol of the well in ancient times and in the Torah, the well is a very significant place. The well is not only the meeting place, as we have learned, that where unions and betrothals often take place, but the well is also a meeting place where women would gather to draw water, where other people would come in and slake their thirst or give drink to their camels or to their animals. The well is also the symbolic place of transformation. The well, or a cistern, is a body of water, and bodies of water in the Torah are also very, very significant, because they are not only the site of personal transformation, but also communal transformation. When we think about ritual immersion in water in the mikveh, and the transformation and change of status that one goes through that process of dunking their body in the water, and the communal transformation that happens to the Israelites when they are walking through the Red Sea after the Exodus. So we know from Torah that water and wells have a deep, deep significance. And the fact that Abraham was digging them up so that his community would have water while they were in the desert, how important that was, and to think about how devastating it was for them that the Philistines covered up those wells and they no longer had access to them. When we think about that story on a sort of mystical or Kabbalistic level, or looking at some of our wisdom traditions, the well is a symbol of the overflowing of God's love and wisdom and Torah itself, the teachings of Torah. And so the fact that they were covered up is even more devastating on that spiritual level. So the fact that Isaac comes to dig them up and uncover them is not only tremendously important to the sustenance and the survival and the functionality of their community, but also on a deeper symbolic and even mystical level, he's uncovering these sources of Torah, and these sources of divine wisdom and divine love and connection and transformation. Something else that also really jumped out at me this year was that he names them. And the first couple of wells that they uncover, he gives a name to that evoke disagreement and quarreling and kind of a negative attribute. But the third well, he names revolve, because there was no quarreling associated with needing to uncover that well. But revolve means expansiveness and wideness. And so if we think about that in relationship to that mystical and deeper understanding of what it means to uncover the well as the source of divine inspiration and wisdom and teaching and Torah itself, he's really saying that this divine source, this wellspring of Torah is expansive. And that's really, really profound and deeply, deeply meaningful to me. After this experience, God comes to visit him, and then he builds an altar. So he has this moment of creating a ritual around this experience. Not only is it really beautiful that he gives names to these wells, but also the fact that he takes the time to ritualize the experience as well. My intention that I'm drawing from this is to consider in my life and in all of our lives that we can have access to that expansive and ever-flowing and overflowing wellspring of wisdom and connection and strength and healing that we can draw upon from Torah and from our spiritual practices and from our creative practices and from ritual, and how powerful all of those things can be in our lives. And to acknowledge that sometimes that wellspring might feel like it gets covered over, or that we can't access it, or that there's something in the way there, and we need to uncover and lift up and remove any barriers that we might be experiencing to that wellspring of Torah and that wellspring of divine love and comfort and nourishment and sustenance. So it is my deep hope that all of us can find ways to access and experience that deep overflowing expansiveness and wellspring of Torah in our lives. I'm also thinking about this Torah portion in relationship to my upcoming workshop that I'll be teaching for Orot Center for New Jewish Learning on creating rituals. And we'll be talking a lot about why we have rituals in our lives, the functions that rituals can play in our lives to help us mark transitions and to mark the things that we're going through in our lives and to mark the things that are really important to us. And we'll be thinking also a lot about water rituals, not only water rituals in the Torah, but how we might be able to use water rituals as one kind of ritual in our lives. And so I hope that you will join me for that two-part series. You can join for one or both sessions and learn more about how to create a ritual of your own for a life transition that you might be going through. So check out more information at orotcenter.org. And I hope to see you soon.